Hi guys, I'm doing a really quick video tonight just to, I was in the groups again tonight and noticing that people are still struggling because they're new, they're just starting, and asking questions, even if they haven't started, asking questions a lot about what they need to do sublimation tumblers or the mistakes that they've made when they do start doing their sublimation tumblers. I'm going to tell you, if you're just wanting to know whether this is for you, I'll tell you that there's kind of a little bit of an expense to get started, but once you get everything you need to do sublimation tumblers, the actual process of doing them isn't that expensive, I don't think. It's just the most expensive part would be, for me, was the printer and the heat source. But I know people that get on Amazon, or not Amazon, but Facebook Marketplace, and can find people selling these little toaster ovens or air fryers for $30, or in that range. So that doesn't have to be an expense. It doesn't have to be super pricey. The actual tumbler presses can get a little pricey, but they've come down a lot. Since when I started, they first came out, I got a 30-ounce tumbler press when they very first started making them, and they were pricey. I'm not even going to tell you what I spent for mine because it's embarrassing, but especially what they go for now. But I wanted it. I actually use all three, though. I use a heat press, actual tumbler press, I use a toaster oven, and I use an air fryer. If you're going to use a toaster oven, some people will tell you that they do just perfectly fine without a convection or an air fry toaster oven. They just buy the cheap little toaster oven, but they have to just make sure they flip their tumbler. I personally suggest getting a convection toaster oven or an air fryer, because there's a fan. A convection oven, that's what it is. It has a fan that blows the air around and circulates the air to keep the temperature nice and consistent throughout the whole inside. So I personally, if I were buying one, I would want it to be convection or have an air fryer setting. And yeah, you're going to want a heat source. You're going to want the printers, they've come down in price too, and you can usually find them on sale. Actually, some of the sublimation, I believe Epson, don't quote me, I'll have to look, but I believe Epson has a sublimation printer now, but they didn't used to. But I'm telling you, Epson, I'm sure, was not upset that people were converting the printer to a sublimation printer, because let me tell you, when COVID first went through and that people were getting those I don't remember what they were called, stimulus checks, a lot of people were buying up the Epsons and converting them. I was one of them. I used my one of the stimulus checks, is that what they're called, to purchase stuff to get going on this. So back then, converting a printer was very messy. You had like the needles that you had to look like you were giving yourself a shot, but you were giving your printer a shot and filling the ink up. Now they're just super easy. You just take the cap off and put the ink in. Super easy. Anyway, so the most expensive part is your heat source, which, like I said, you can start off with just a little toaster oven. The printer, you can convert an Epson or something like an eco tank. I would want an eco tank. That means that you're going to get the printer. It's going to come with inkjet ink, but set that aside and fill it with sublimation ink. You're going to want sublimation ink. So printer, heat source, paper, ink, and a substrate. That's what you need. You need 5 things. Some people will say shrink wrap. Shrink wrap's the devil. I don't use it. I actually don't use heat tape either. Some people will say heat tape. I use that masking tape that the painters use to tape off their borders or whatever, wall boards, whatever, frame. They used to frame, whatever, when they're painting, trim. But anyway, I am an Amazon associate, so I will put a list of links in the description for everything that you need to get started with sublimation. And whether you click on them or not, they'll be there. You can just write them down and go to Amazon on your own. That's where I get most of my stuff. And I'm telling you, I love Amazon. A lot of times I could get things locally, but I live pretty far from town, and I would rather save the gas and let Amazon deliver it to my door. So, yeah, I'll put a list down there. I do get a commission on those links, but like I said, you don't have to click on them if you don't want to. And I also would appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, but if you don't, at least go to my channel and watch some of my videos, especially the one where I talk about, I have one where I do all three. I do the press, the air fryer, and the toaster oven. All three of those things I do, and I use a black tumbler wrap because those are the most difficult to do, and I address a lot of the issues that people have starting out. If you don't want to, I really suggest you don't just jump in and start doing tumblers without watching those videos or someone's videos to help you with the little tricks. There are little tricks to this if you don't want ghosting and you don't want a bad scene. So that, you're going to want to do a little bit of research with that. Whether it's through my videos or not, I just want you to learn from anyone that you can so that you don't go through there was one order that I was doing for a cranberry colored tumbler. I bet I had 20 cups I messed up because of a bad seam. I was just starting out, and it was before I knew what those little tricks were. But when I started doing this, there wasn't a lot of, there wasn't a lot of people when I started doing it that were in the groups that were, had mastered all that, and since then there are a lot of us that can sub a tumbler and not have ghosting or a bad seam. I couldn't tell you the last time I had ghosting or a bad seam, but it took a really long time to figure that out, and a lot of messed up tumblers. Thankfully, I do glitter and epoxy tumblers, and I can, my mistake cups, I can fix them up and still sell them as a glitter epoxy tumbler. But some people don't do both. If you're not already doing epoxy and glitter tumblers and can't afford to mess up, then please watch my other videos or someone's videos and figure out what the tips and tricks are, because there are tips and tricks to doing these. That being said, this video was just basically me wanting really quick to address the fact that if you're going to do sublimation tumblers, you're going to want a printer, sublimation ink, sublimation paper, a sublimation substrate, which is basically what your item is. Like these tumblers, you can't just go to Dollar Tree and buy cups to sublimate on. I did that. I did that when I started out. I went to Dollar Tree and I bought a white ceramic cup, brought it home, put the shrink wrap on it. I hate shrink wrap. Gosh darn, I hate shrink wrap. It's the devil. I don't use it. But thankfully I did that day. I wrapped my design around my cup. I put the shrink wrap on and I put it right in my oven that I cook with. Luckily, it didn't turn out. The shrink wrap did a weird thing, and when I finally peeled it all off, nothing was on the cup. I got into the groups, and like I said, there wasn't a lot of people really doing it back when I started, and it was, they didn't have these groups where everybody was so helpful, with getting you past all these little learning curves. But yeah. Luckily, it didn't turn out. So I didn't ruin my oven. I still used my oven because I had that shrink wrap on and the ink didn't transfer and it was all still on the paper. So I felt very confident that, I didn't mess up my oven. But do not do that. If you are going to sub tumblers, make sure you get tumblers that have the poly coating. What sublimation is the transfer of an image where the ink is transferred through a heat source as a gas. the heat will turn that ink into a gas, and then it's looking for something to hang on to, and the only thing it can hang on to is polyester. So, I mean, even if you're doing t-shirts and stuff like that, they have to have poly count, and a high one if they want it to last and stay probably in the 60 percentile and up. But so do your cups. Everything's got to have a poly count. So, yeah. I just wanted you all to kind of know that, because a lot of people are still just starting out in this and, trying to get going. And I don't think it's all that expensive to start. Not like it was back when I started. But the prices on a lot of stuff has come down, like the presses and stuff like that. Even the cups. It used to be you had to, like when I first started, I was buying my cups through Alibaba, a website, which I still do some of that, but now a lot of those manufacturers have warehouses here, where before they didn't. We had to wait. We were all waiting like 6 weeks, and they also have like a holiday, I think in February. I think it's February, forgive me if I'm wrong, where we had to wait for all of our stuff to come in. But now we don't. You can find sources with the same prices that, if you had gone with Alibaba and had to wait the 6 week, you're still going to get those good prices from a lot of people, a lot of sources here in the U.S. now, because they have warehouses here, and they also have distributors that you can go through that can get them delivered to you here. The one I use has, I think, 3 warehouses, and one in Chicago, which is close to me. So it doesn't even take a week for me to get my cups, and I still pay about the same price that I did when I first started out buying cases from China through Alibaba. Anyway, if you are starting out, this is basically what you needed to know, I think. If you have questions, though, please comment and ask, and I'll try to reply and address them. I was going to do a live, but I'm too nervous for that right now. I'm too new at this video stuff. But I do plan on doing a live someday, but I don't see very good. And whenever someone does a live, they're looking like this, and they're reading people's comments and answer them as they go. And I have really bad eyesight. I'll have to wait till someone's here to help me read. But I had to jump off for a minute. But I'm back. And the reason I came back and didn't just cut this video short is I wanted to also mention that if you're going to start doing sublimation tumblers, you want to be careful of copyright issues. So, copyright is a big deal. You don't want them shutting you down right when you're starting to get into doing this. So I personally would play it safe. I'm in some free groups, and there are a lot of free groups on Facebook and stuff, but just be careful. Make sure the person sharing the image has the right to share the image. Or a lot of times someone will say, I designed this myself or whatever. And it is really hard to decide who designed it, because there are sometimes they'll be sharing an image through these groups, and someone will say that's their image, but then there's got someone else over here saying it's their image. I've had that happen. We've got more than one person claiming that they did it. So it's complicated. To avoid that, I have since been leaning more toward just going exclusively with Creative Fabrica and Canva for my designs. In Canva, you can kind of create your own designs. If you do that, you're going to want, they have a free version. I have the pro version. I can't tell you what comes with the free version because I do the pro version and always have. But I think it's $119 a year-ish. And this is, right now, this is 2023. I just paid it not too long ago. So I think it's $119 something a month is what or a year, annually, a year that I just paid. I'm not sure what Creative Fabrica is. I do that one monthly. I can't remember what I pay monthly. Sorry about that. But I'll put the link down there and you can click on it, read it, and But I have a lot of subscriptions that I do. But if you're just starting out, I would consider one of those two. I use Canva. That's where I print my size. I size my tumblers because you got to have your paper a certain size. So I measure whenever I get my tumblers in. I measure to make sure, And I have a video too that kind of, it's the one in on my channel that talks about sublimating a name on an already subbed tumbler. In that, I'm in Canva a little bit, and I explain how you can size your tumbler in there on like plain copyright. We were talking about copyright on plain copy paper before you commit to doing it on your sublimation paper and wasting sublimation paper to make sure you get it sized right. I address that a little bit in there, but yeah, I'm leaning, like I said, toward going exclusively with just those two because I bought so many images off Etsy, lots and lots of images. But sometimes, and I'm not nothing against Etsy whatsoever, but some of the designers on there who sell their graphics, a lot of that's copyright. Be careful. There's a lot of copyright on Etsy, but some of the people will sell you a commercial license so that you can sell their products. But I've had some be very specific. One image I bought, they said you could only reproduce 200 copies of it and sell, and that's all they wanted you to reproduce. So, I mean, it's a little bit, sorry, I'm playing with my magnets that I'm making. I made magnets, and now I'm playing with them. But some of them are a little wonky, and you have to read it, and you gotta kind of really be careful. So I have since decided that I am going to be going with Creative Fabrica and Canva. I do have a link for Creative Fabrica that is it's a affiliate link, but that or Canva. I do both of those, and I will continue to do both of those. And if you're going to do Canva, Creative Fabrica, if you are a subscriber, all their images are commercial use. You can use them on your cups and sell them. Canva, read it. You got to kind of read up because you can't just basically take an image and go with it. I think you have to alter it. There's things that you should read, or even go here on YouTube and type in Canva copyright, because they do have a video that explains it all on there. But I wanted to address that a little bit if you're just starting out, because I'd hate for y'all to get in trouble with copyright stuff. And if you're going to sell, a lot of times they're not going to say anything, I don't think, for personal use. I made personal cups with images that I don't know if I should or shouldn't, but I didn't make any money off of it, so I don't think it'll come after me. But here's one. This is my mom. I lost my mom in 2019. And that's my sister-in-law and me and my mom, and we were being silly. On Halloween, I was always my mom's witch for many years. I handed out the candy, and she dressed me up like a witch every year, and she wouldn't let me get out of it. But we were goofing with, she had a lot of costumes, because we have a large family, and they would all come over with their kids and go trick-or-treating at my mom's neighborhood. And Mom would have costumes for all the adults to dress up in and walk around with the kids, just for fun. And, of course, she dressed me as the witch, and I worked the door. But anyway, I did put this image on here for my personal use. I hope I don't get in trouble for that. I might. If I do, I don't know what I'll do. But I do love that. That was her favorite movie. She didn't get to see the new one. I did watch it, but the first one's always the best, right? I think so. Of any movie. But anyway, I'm getting off track. I shouldn't keep this so long. I am putting links in there, and I did already while I was offline for a second. I went through Amazon, and to do this, you can start sublimating tumblers for under $500. I almost said two. No. For between $400 and $500. I went through and I found the cheapest things because I'm thrifty. So I try to, find the cheaper things. I don't use heat tape, so I linked the masking tape. I don't use those shrink wrap things, so that's not going to be in there. But I do have a list. I'm not listing a bunch of different brands. I'm going to list what I personally use or would. I don't have that press, but I would buy it because that's what I look for, is the highest ratings and what people are saying about the presses. I don't think you're ever going to find a perfect press, but a lot of people blame their presses for things with bad seams and things like that when they just really didn't investigate and learn the tips and tricks. Not saying everybody does that, but some people do. And that can reflect in reviews. But I did find one that the average reviews for a press are like 4.4 stars. And I did find one that was 4.5 that I'm tagging you in or linking for you. But yeah, that's not a bad price to get started on something. And then, like I said, you could even do that cheaper if you don't get the press, which I think the press was, I don't know, it was over 100, I think. But if you go with just a toaster oven off Marketplace, you can start even way cheaper than that. So under $500, even under $400 if you go with a Marketplace or a garage sale toaster oven or air fryer. Or even go to your thrift stores and find that stuff. But yeah. I hope you do this. I hope you comment and let us all know how you're doing. And I hope you subscribe to my channel. Find me on Facebook, Shelly's Tumblers. Yeah. I'll try to be as helpful as I possibly can, and someday I actually may do a live. I just don't know. We'll have to see. I'm going to get off here. I never know how to end these things very well, but I'll put the links down below, and let me know if you found this helpful. And if you did find it helpful, I do hope you subscribe to my channel and comment. Let me know. Thanks. Have a good night, day, morning. I don't know what time you're watching this. Okay, I'm going.